Morning, Year 9. We're going to have a look today at the blood and the different parts of the blood and what all the different parts of the blood do. So this morning I've got a PowerPoint that I'm going to talk through. There's points in the PowerPoint where I'm going to ask you to stop and do some work and then restart the video, and then there'll be an activity for you to do at the end of it. So our topic is the blood, and we need to think about why we need to stop ourselves from bleeding. Now, the main reason why we need to do that is our blood contains cells that are vital for life, and if we didn't stop ourselves from bleeding, then we wouldn't have those cells and therefore we would die. So we're going to look in a little bit more detail about what is actually in blood. So your blood's got made of 4 sort of different parts to it. Now, the first bit that the blood is made of is called plasma, and if you imagine, and if you look in the test tube here, if we got a sample of blood and we were to there's a special machine you can use called a centrifuge, which will separate out the blood into its main bits. Over half of it will actually be a yellowy liquid, and that yellowy liquid is called plasma. It's described as being sort of straw coloured, and that makes up 55% of the blood, and then the rest of it will be the blood cells. So technically, although your blood looks red, the liquidy part of blood is actually yellow. It looks red because of the red cells that are contained inside the plasma. So I've given you a clue as to some of the other things that are in blood. You've got red blood cells, white blood cells, and then the last part, the things that makes up this bit here called the blood cells, are called your platelets. We're going to look in a little bit more detail about those 4 things. So let's remember those 4 things: plasma, red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Oh, picture up here, you can see we've got, these are the red blood cells. This is like a little cartoon type diagram of the white blood cells, and we'll learn about a lot more about what they do in year 10. And then you've got the platelets here, and all of this would be carried in a yellowy liquid called the plasma. So what is our blood made of? Can you remember those 4 things? So have a little bit of a think to yourself. Can you remember the 4 things? So the 4 things that we had were plasma, red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. You need to remember those 4 things. So number 1, the plasma, and there's a picture of, we've got some plasma there, that yellowy straw coloured liquid. And inside the plasma carries all your blood cells. It also carries any dissolved food that's been transported around your body, and carbon dioxide is carried in the plasma. Second part of the blood, your red blood cells. These carry hemoglobin, they contain hemoglobin, and they carry oxygen around the body. The hemoglobin and the oxygen join together and make what's called an oxyhemoglobin complex, and then it then gets carried around the body. The oxygen is contained inside the red blood cells, attached to the hemoglobin. Your white blood cells, basically they produce antibodies and fight infections. And like I said, we'll learn about the white blood cells and the different types of white blood cells in a lot more detail in year 10. And then the 4th bit of blood is called your platelets. Now, platelets are kind of tiny bits of broken up cells. And when you cut yourself, it's the platelets that join together and form a scab. You can see, and there's an enlarged picture of it, how all those bits of platelets all knit up together and cover over any gap that you've got in your skin, form a scab so that the blood can't get out. So you can see how very vital they are. So we've got a table there where it's got blood part and function. What I would like you to do is to pause the video and go to the Google Docs. This slide is there in the Google Doc, and I would like you to fill it in. For those of you that want a little bit more information about this, if you think, well, I have just covered the basics on this, if you want to get a little bit more information about the blood, so you've got more detailed in your notes, if you go into the biology textbook, and it's pages 52 and 53 of the biology textbook, you can read more about the different parts of the blood, so you can make more detailed notes if you want more detailed notes. So you should have paused it, and you can then have a look at your answers and green pen what you've written down so far. So these are the basic facts that you need to know for the different parts of the blood. Some of you will have more information on there because you'll have gone to Caboodle and wrote more notes onto it. Now this is the last activity that I want you to do. And again, there's a Google slide for this. And I want you to go through this activity and fill in all of the bits, all of the boxes that are here on this slide. And I want you to upload this so I can see how well you have done. And that is the work that I want you to do. And then there's a Seneca assignment to complete as well. Thanks a lot, Year 9.